What's up, guys, and welcome back to a brand new episode of the NeoVintage podcast. I'm Jabril, and I'm here with
Steve.
And for you guys who have never heard the show before, we're just two guys that like to talk about the biggest stories in gaming, but we always like to start with what we've been playing. So, Steve, let me know what you've been playing.
Yeah, so it's still a little mixture of things, but really just pretty much three main topics I want to touch on. So obviously, I went back to Scarlet Nexus, which I know I talked about a few weeks ago or a few episodes ago, where I was really hyped for the game. Then I was like kind of confused with it and complained about some of the mechanics. They did a pretty big update. It wasn't size-wise, it wasn't like a huge update, but a lot of minor tweaks they did into like the targeting system, a lot of the mechanics for like accessibility, and it's like a lot of just under the hood type tweaks, and a lot of it addressed things I had issues with, mainly the targeting system. I thought was really just felt really weird, and the quirkiness of it, and I didn't know if it was just maybe because though I am playing the PS5 version, you can tell the game's not truly optimized for PlayStation 5. It feels like it fixed all of that, so I got into it again, and I'm starting to go through the story more. I'm taking my time. I felt like I was almost trying to like speedline it, like almost Devil May Cry it, where the game really wants you to take your time and read collectibles and talk to people and build this bond with some of your teammates, like a Persona Light style, not where it was like super competitive and that it mattered to that extent, but it is helping me flesh out the characters, flesh out the world a little bit more. So now I'm actually really feeling the game again, and the combat is still just as interesting and unique as ever, where it has that nice mixture and stuff. So I'm excited, and I think now I will be able to continue carry through to the end of the game, just because that moment to moment is a little bit better. It's a little tighter now. It's what I felt like the game should have been. Which makes me just wonder if a couple more patches would have made that game work better at launch. I know it's been reviewed pretty well, but I do think that a lot of that stuff that went just like brought it down are now fixed. And it's weird because they did do like a trailer for this update, and it's weird because it's like a lot of menus and things you really can't show unless you played it before and after. But I'm really happy that the game's now, I think, in even a better state. I think it went from a pretty good game to I think it's a really great game now. Now that all these systems just work a little bit better, without like compromising like the original creators or the development team's ideals. It's not like we were just changing everything. So I think that's really great. So, and obviously this weekend was another Halo Infinite Flight. I jumped in. A little bit weirder this time because you have like 3-hour bursts where you can play against PvP, and I know, and I'm trying to say, it is more Halo, but in the best way. They're rolling it out a little bit slowly. I do think, I don't know if they're just worried about like the server stress, but they're doing maybe like 2 maps at a time. Only 3 hours available where you can play. We've seen some new maps, a couple new gameplay modes, and the game is a lot better than, it hasn't been that long since the last flight, but the game is in a lot better shape. I think a lot of the I understand that the last flight they said it was an older build and things like that. I think maybe we're building now finally to what we're expecting at launch. And it's minor. Sometimes it's just like the textures look better, the ground looks a little bit better. This is not supposed to be a super hyper realistic looking game. I think they've pretty much nailed what an HD 4K 2021 Halo game should look like. It should look like this, a lot less what Halo 5 was. So it's all really starting to feel well. The arena combat, I know you're not super into the multiplayer aspect, but that arena shooter feel is back. We have this new it's almost like a shield bounce reflecting that people have been able to get pretty creative. It's really good. For all my breakdowns, to see what Halo really is changing into, I always look at Chris Ray Gun because he's like a super Halo fanatic. So watching some of his streams and seeing these like small mechanics just work a little bit better. The grappling hook is a whole lot better. I always thought it was almost felt like just thrown in the first flight. This one feels a little bit sharper, where I'm killing people, and I knew they had the needler. I could grapple hook just the needler, turn around and get the next guy behind me. So it's just working so much better, and I'm having so much fun with it. And at first I was like kind of irked about the 3-hour periods because they're like pretty far apart, but when I'm in there in that moment, I'm having great, and I almost don't want to go too far. I know later today we're filming on the last day of this flight, and then next weekend there's gonna be another flight. And I think they're opening the big team battles tonight. So that'll be interesting to see. It'll be, I think, our first experience with vehicles. Unless I've been missing the map, it'll be I don't know. I don't think they've announced what map they're gonna show or give us access to. So that'll be interesting to see how big team battle works, because that's always a big staple in Halo. So I'm super excited to see what really comes of that. So I guess our next episode I'll have even more thoughts, because the next flight will be next weekend. So I'll have another weekend of the Halo Infinite flight, which is shaping up to be pretty exciting for the actual release of Halo Infinite. And so the last thing I've been tapped into, and I'm still early on, and I know this will actually probably go in. I think you've probably played a lot more than I. So Kenna Bridge of Spirits finally released. I know small delays here and there, and this was something we've had pre-bought for so long, and we've been looking forward to it for a while. Now I'm still very early on in the game. I from the slice that I have played, love it. I'm confused on some of the reviewers who are saying it's like a PS2 game in 2021, but not in a bad way. I don't know if they remember what PS2 games feel like. I do understand sort of the quirkiness and it's very, very slight jankiness of the controls. Invisible walls here and there, but I think as a little bit more like linear experience, I know there's like that small sort of hub world or whatever, the village and stuff, but everything else about this game, I am loving it. I'm playing it, and people in the room are thinking I'm watching a Pixar game, and this is, no shot to Insomniac, we love them. If I thought this is Ratchet and Clank looked like a Pixar movie, this even blew that out the water, in my opinion. From the widescreen, for the way it's shot, the artistic style, it just looks so fantastic. So it's really exciting to see that, and I can't wait to dive more into it. I only ever saw one gameplay trailer of this, and this was, I think, at the PlayStation 5 announcement, and I kind of always went dark from there. I know we've had a few different PlayStation events and state of plays that they've talked about it, but I was pretty much sold since day one. So the gameplay, I actually didn't know there was combat in it, so I thought that was really cool to see the different combat and the different mechanics. I'm also just a huge fan of masks, so the fact that that's all really tied into like the spirits and that first part when you put the mask on and you break that barrier and you see the flashbacks of the spirits that you're helping cross over, I think all that stuff is right down my alley. I think those are themes that are usually saved for more animated movies that take so much time and to explore. So having a whole journey to do that on PS5 right now, and it's available on PC for anyone who needs to, I think it's great. Again, I'm super early. I think you're probably a little bit more ahead, but that's all I've really been touching on are those 3 games right now, and a bunch of other stuff on the back burners. Things you're probably talking about, Castlevania Advanced Collection, and all these other great things that were shown in. We'll talk about later as well. So, what have you been up to?
Sure. So I guess I can just piggy off of where you left. I've also been playing. I guess they pronounce it in the game Kena, but I don't know exactly how to pronounce it. So Kena, whatever. I've also been playing it. I would say I'm actually fairly deep into the game at this point. I don't know exactly how long it is, but basically, without getting into spoiler territory, the game I think is kind of broken into giant vignettes dedicated to one kind of. You have this main journey she's on, and then she encounters these other characters, and they each have their own sections of the map. And so I'm on the second one of those. The game is phenomenal. It's probably one of my favorite games of the year, easily so far. Very, very pleasantly surprised by a lot of things in this game. First off, I also, though I was very excited about this game, I tried to limit the amount of information I took in about it because I was kind of sold on the visuals and what they were trying to do about it. I was just going to leave it like that. And it wasn't an expensive enough title for me to need to dive into every single mechanic to make sure it's a game for me. I was pretty confident I was going to like it. I also really didn't know there was combat. And so not only was I impressed about that there was combat, but the combat's actually really good and can get really challenging as you get to higher difficulty. So I think they did a phenomenal job there. The art style is beautiful. I will say, I gave it a shot playing in both fidelity and performance mode. I will say for anybody who's kind of not 100% sure which to play, absolutely play in performance mode. What I will say is the visual, that native 4K versus upscaled 4K, the difference is marginal. I didn't encounter a massive difference in visual fidelity. However, the performance, that 30 to 60 frames per second, is just night and day. And so I actually didn't love the way it felt in 30 frames, but when I switched it to 60, things just felt a lot more fluid and better. So absolutely play in performance mode if you are confused or conflicted about which mode to play in, because again, it visually looks stunning even with the 60 frames per second. They did a great job there, and again, it's upscaled 4K, so it's not like it looks muddy or any crappy like that. I also saw some of the reviews about it being like a PS2 game. I couldn't disagree more at all, as someone who kind of actively plays PS2 games or games from that era. It's not even remotely similar to that. I 100% understand what they're saying about the linearity to it, but I even think that's a little overblown, because once you get to sections like the Forbidden Woods, it actually opens up akin to like a Zelda game, where it an open world like an Origins game or like Odyssey or anything like that? Of course not, but there's tons of backtracking and Metroidvania type things, and especially once you get into the warp system and you open up more locations, you're doubling back to places all the time. So, and you can walk from location to location, so it is one open world essentially. So the idea that it's like a DMC type game, it's not even remotely similar to that at all, because again, those worlds are very segmented, where this game, if you wanted to, you could run from one section to the another, as long as you have the abilities to access the location. There's nothing really prohibiting you to that. Sure, there's invisible walls and stuff like that, but I think that's more of akin just kind of to the scale of the game, because again, this is not like the most massive Sony game ever, though Ember Lab I think did a phenomenal job. So it doesn't feel super indie to me. This does feel like something that I could see coming from the first party, maybe with a little bit more polish. But yeah, overall, I think it's phenomenal. And anybody who's kind of skeptical about it, I think the game is like $40 or something like that? $40-$50?
I believe so, yeah.
Excellent cash proposition. And again, I don't know how long it is. I've seen some people complain about the length. I'm, what I would guess, maybe halfway, 60% in, and I've been very happy with the amount of time it's taken for me to get to this point, and I think there's tons of replayability because of how collectible things are and how much exploration you can do. So yeah, absolute thumbs up for me. I love the game so far, and I've been playing a couple other things, so I won't take too much time with them. I've since paused it, Origins, because I'm working on other things right now, but I will be going back to that. I'm very deep into it. I don't think I'm necessarily late. I'm the late part of the game, but I'm like maybe 75% through it. The main thing is the way the game is structured is it's obviously the first open world game of the ACs that went that way. However, I feel like the mission structure is not as balanced as some of the ones that came after it. So you'll have these major level requirements and jumps between major story missions. So like one story mission will require like, hey, you should be level 28 for this one. The next one will be like, hey, you need to be level 33 for this. So it's up to you to do missions on the side of that, like kind of side material, to be able to get the XP to make sure that you're on the same level so you don't get destroyed on the missions, which is fine. That's very normal stuff. But the thing is, the way they lay out XP per mission and the way how homogenous and samey the missions can be, boy, can that game get crazy boring in between major story missions. So that's my only major critique of it, is I feel like it got a little bit more balanced later on, where they struck up a good balance where it's like, if you would like to get pretty close to mainlining it, that's an option you could do. If you'd like to do more exploratory runs, you can absolutely do that. Where here, they made it so you need to play the side material, but it didn't feel like they put a ton of love and care into some of the smaller missions, where it's like a lot of fetch quests. So it's like, escort this person from A to B, go into this encampment, clear that out, clear this encampment, take people out, go get this relic from this tomb, and you go through, and it's the same things over and over and over and over again with higher scaling enemies pretty much. And that can get a little bit samey in the way that I feel like Odyssey and Valhalla, they took you into such weird situations and weird part of the map, but it felt so unique from it. So even the smallest mission, they're like, oh my god, I can't believe some people missed this, because this is like such a funny, quirky, weird mission. Where Origins, I didn't encounter as much of that, and I saw attempts for it, like, hey, escort this giant white croc from like this encampment to this
Yep.
swamp area, which is cool. But then I'm getting attacked by hippos for like the 15th millionth time in this game, and I'm like, okay, guys, like, so eventually you do get to a point where I could literally sit there and predict the missions that are coming to me, and it literally is right. So that's the only thing. I do like Origins a lot, but it has gotten to a point where, and also I would admit, I might be a little biased because I am pretty fatigued right now because I've played back-to-back Assassin's Creed games from the beginning. So I am kind of in a mode where I'm like, okay, wrap it up, Bayek. Like, let's wrap it up. But I do like the game quite a bit. Also, I played Origami 2. This is a game that recently came to Game Pass. I dabbled with the first one, but I did not dive deep into it. And this game is really awesome. So this game is 100% for anybody who's into any kind of like stealth game. So if you like Assassin's Creed, if you like Ghost of Tsushima, and you're okay with something a little bit more indie feeling, this game is absolutely for you. They take out a lot of the crazy story elements. So it's literally, they give you a giant encampment area, and you just stealth around, killing people and fulfilling some kind of obligation that they want you to do for the mission. And so it's a pretty simple formula, and you're a ninja also, so obviously it gives like Tenchu vibes at times. But yeah, I think they did an excellent job with that. And sure, it has some jank to it, but generally speaking, it does what it needs to do. The only thing is, it's super not forgiving when it comes to breaking stealth. So if at any point you get caught by like 2 or 3 people, chances are you're screwed. You could fight it off if you really have the skill to do so, but in my experience, and again, I've been playing these stealth games for a while now, so thankfully a lot of the tricks that I found working really well in Assassin's Creed work fine in this game as well. I would say that it's a lot less forgiving in that regard, that like if you they obviously want you to play a certain way and plot out your pathway and kind of prepare for things and have an escape route and stuff like that, because if you try to go in guns blazing in any capacity, even if it's not a ton of people in the area, chances are they're going to kill you because they deal a lot of damage, because it's supposed to be that kind of difficult stealth situation. And I guess to some degree you could say it's a little bit more on the realistic side in that regard, because yeah, if you were trying to stealth infiltrate a facility and you got caught by 3 people with swords, chances are you probably wouldn't do so well against them. And it's a very similar situation where like there are parry systems and dodging systems, and just general blocking, but the ability to leverage that against 3 people, I don't feel like it has that level of fluidity in the combat to allow you to do that kind of stuff. So for anybody who has an Xbox and is interested in those type of games, I 100% say give it a spin, 20-30 minutes, and you should be able to know whether it's a game for you. And I think people can get a kick out of it. I wouldn't pay more than like $20 for this type of game. For me personally, about the time I'd get out of it. But if you can get it for like on Game Pass or for cheaper, on PlayStation, I think it's on PlayStation, then I think it's worth a spin. So a good game. Steve, I think you might get a kick out of this game.
Yeah, this is one of those things that it's kind of just been missing me, and I'm looking at it now, and I knew it looked cool. I didn't know it was like this whole stealth. Cause I'm looking at this like a few screenshots, and it looks great. Now, I mean, me being me, I'm gonna obviously have to play the first one. Are they hard connected? Origami 1 and 2?
Well, so I can't 100% say how connected they are, but personally, I played maybe 10 minutes of the first one a while ago, and I just jumped into 2, and I'm having no problems, because again, the game to me is 100% crafted around the gameplay loop and less about the narrative. There is a narrative there, but at no point am I in a situation where like I'm following an NPC character that I don't know who the hell they are. It's really just they give you a scenario, they drop you into the world, go ahead, and the rest is on you. So I would say you would have zero issue jumping into this game at all. They teach you every single mechanic you need to know. I can't even say what mechanics are in the first one or not. They teach you everything, and the way they do it is, a lot of mechanics that you kind of just have in Assassin's Creed or Ghost, you actually have to unlock in this game. And they craft the missions around that. So they'll set you up with, the ability to stealth kill someone, and kind of hide in grass and stuff like that. But things like drawing a character into your grass, like, like a whistle mechanic or something like that, is something you unlock. over time. Not hard to unlock things, but it takes time. And so as you unlock things, the missions start leveraging that mechanic more and more. So it's actually a pretty cleverly designed game that forces you to really learn how to use every single thing. And everything has a weight to it. So when, you're kind of throwing a knife really quick like in a Syndicate, and here, you only have so many, and they only do so much damage. So you have to be very judicious about who you throw like a shuriken at. So it's small things like that I actually think could be frustrating to some people and actually pretty cool to others. So if you're looking for more of a challenge, because like Assassin's Creed and Ghost, you kind of maxed out everything you could do in, and you want something that maybe kicks your butt a little bit more in the other direction, I think Origami could give you that level of challenge, so long as you're a little forgiving for the fact that, again, the scale of the game is much smaller. Like, it's a smaller team working on it, and it's a less robust game, but I think it's pretty fun still.
No, I might have to check that out. And I mean, it's $3.99 right now on PlayStation. So
perfect.
And then the second one is on Game Pass, which who knows? But so I'll have to check that out, because that is one of those things that it's like I constantly see, and I'm like, I gotta play this. It looks like it's down for me, but for some reason I haven't had that time for it. But usually with your sign-offs, I'm usually pretty confident going for it.
Yeah, for under $5, I think you're gonna like it. I don't think this is gonna be your game of the year, but I think you can get a kick out of it. And yeah, the only advice I can give you is do not try to fight multiple people at the same time. It's not gonna work.
Okay, got it. I'll keep you updated if I decide to jump in.
Awesome. And then the last one, and I'll wrap it up here. Obviously, I've been playing Castlevania Advanced Collection. I got it the moment that it could have came out. I got the game before it posted onto the eShop, and I used my computer because that's how much I wanted it. They posted the link online, and I checked the eStore, and it wasn't there. I was like, absolutely not. Went on the computer, bought it on the computer, downloaded it onto my console because it was in my library or whatever. And yeah, no, phenomenal. Again, there's not much new I can say about these games because people who know. Personally, I'm playing Circle of the Moon right now, and I'm kind of just going through that. The last one I'm probably going to play is Harmony of Dissonance because I have that on Game Boy. I also have Aria of Sorrow, but Harmony of Dissonance I was playing up until not too long ago on my SP. So that's very fresh in my head. So Circle of the Moon is the only one that I didn't have a physical of in this collection, with exception for Dracula X. But I don't really like Dracula X. And I know that might be heresy to Castlevania fans, but I love the soundtrack and I love the visual style of it. But the game, the heavy weight to it, I just don't like personally. Circle of the Moon is what I'm playing mainly right now. Love the game. I'm on the latter part of it. I think I'm like 70% through it because once you know, Castlevania is, for anybody who doesn't know, I would say is broken into a couple eras. Obviously, you have the NES era, and I think you can lump in some of the Super Nintendo titles with that, like Castlevania 4 and Bloodlines and stuff like that are similar vein. Obviously, things change with Symphony of the Night. That leads into the Advance and DS era, and then onwards, you get like kind of things like Lords of Shadow and stuff like that are very completely different stuff. And so, when it comes to Castlevania, once you know the format, you can pretty much jump into any of them and make decent progress, so long as you understand how it works. And so as someone who's been playing Harmony of Dissonance up until very recently, jumping into Circle of the Moon, I was pretty able to mainline it really quick. And so long as you're able to figure out where the save points are and kind of make it from save point to save point, you'll make progress pretty well. So the game is phenomenal. I love the way it looks. I love all the amenities they add, all the little kind of like concept art stuff. The music player is awesome too, because that's awesome, because I wanted to sit there and listen to the soundtrack of Dracula X, but I didn't want to really play the game that much. So that was perfect for me. And I kind of just sat there and ran through a couple of those theme songs. And yeah, it just runs well. It has all the different aspect ratio. If you are a psycho, you could play full screen if you want to, and just stretch it to the Switch screen.
Stretch those
massive pixels. Yeah.
Yeah, those pixels on GBA to yeah, I don't know. I wonder how that even looks all stretched out.
Yeah, I mean, I always check just to look, because I think it looks hilarious with the NES one, because I played Castlevania 3 fully stretched just to see. I played maybe the first 2 levels or something, not that long, but it looks ridiculous. And so the Game Boy one looked a little less ridiculous because there's more pixel density in those ones than obviously the NES ones. But overall, I think it's a kind of ridiculous way to play. You could either... obviously pixel perfect or kind of just the general bars on the side are the best way to play. Pixel Perfect's a little small for me, and the difference is negligible enough that I'm not too worried about it. I played the same way with the Mega Man collection, the ZX collection, where I just kind of play with the bars on the side, and that keeps the aspect ratio faithful, but like not super stretched. So I like what's going on with this collection. It's only $20. Anybody who likes Symphony of the Night and is upset that Symphony of the Night is not on Switch yet, these are close enough. I know nothing will ever be a replacement for Symphony of the Night, but personally, I can super co-sign Harmony of Dissonance that it's pretty great as far as I'm concerned. It's one of my favorite ones, period, especially after the kind of Symphony of the Night era. So for anybody who is a little upset that that's not on Switch quite yet, that's a good replacement as far as I'm concerned.
Yeah, I always put in my mind, my mental check, like Symphony of the Night and then these 3 GBA games usually together, because they're obviously highly inspired by, I mean, I know it's them, I know it's Iga and everyone, so highly inspired by that Symphony of the Night. Dracula X is a weird one to put on the collection, because, I mean, that's basically, it is Rondo, right? It's Rondo of Blood.
Correct,
Yeah, so interesting. That's an interesting one. Yeah, I probably will just listen to the music. I'm not dying to jump into Rondo again.
Yeah, I played Dracula X years ago on like my PSP. That's when I used to play it.
Exactly.
But yeah, no, and for anybody also, don't sleep on Aria of Sorrow 2, because I think if you're interested in seeing a Castlevania game play with imagery that like literally no other ones play with and get like super futuristic and stuff like that, that is a cool one too. So there's lots of cool things in this collection. Of course, I'm still always going to be partial to Castlevania 3 because that's just my all-time favorite, but this one's like a really refreshing kind of, I do like the save system. They're a lot more forgiving personally, and I know that's hilarious to some people because they feel like the Castlevania games are like tough after Symphony of the Night. But for anybody who plays the NES games and knows what I'm talking about, where it's like nice to have save points and not have to be solely reliant on save states, unless you're a savage, which I've done this run before with no save states in the original NES one. I've done that too before. It's brutal to get through, so I do appreciate how forgiving some of these newer ones are, where like they just give you a little bit of breathing room. So I've been playing the hell out of that, and I've been trying to strike up a balance between that and Kena and trying to find out like what I'm gonna play, because I just like them both so much. So that's poor Origins. It just got completely shafted the moment these two games came out. So
yeah, but it makes sense.
These games are just better in the nicest way. I say that with peace and love.
Absolutely.
All right, so I guess we can move on to the first story. This is a big one. So yeah, we got a huge Nintendo Direct this week, and so we'll just go kind of point by point, and not everything is on here because some things either got announced and like, no offense, but like nobody cares, or it's just updates. So I tried to hit all the major points here because otherwise we'll be here all day because they announced a lot of stuff.
Yeah, they did.
So first one, Kirby and the Forgotten Land. Now, for anybody who wasn't paying super close attention, this is actually something that leaked kind of like right before the thing, and a lot of people
hours.
Yeah, a lot of people were pissed about this, obviously, because when it comes to Nintendo Directs, people and their spoilers, they're very protective of that. They like experiencing it in real time. But besides a little bit of concept art in the title, there's not much more information we got about it. So thankfully, when they showed the trailer, it was pretty much brand new for me, and I was really impressed with what they showed. It seems like, and not to keep comparing it, but it is very much seemingly like the Odyssey of Kirby games. Pretty much, it's opening things up. It has them in this interesting world, fully 3D, obviously, not a side scroller, and it looks pretty fun as far as I'm concerned, and a very interesting direction to take Kirby. What were your thoughts about this game?
Yeah, I mean, it's always strange, not strange, when a Kirby game comes out, because most Kirby games, let's be honest, are the exact same game over and over.
Definitely.
That first level, you always end up fighting Wispy Woods. So when you see one finally take a little bit different chance and doesn't look like it's just a side-scrolling Kirby, I'm pretty much down for it. I saw the leak a little bit. So I saw some of the artwork, which ended up being true with like the rundown city, basically, the post-apocalyptic looking city. This is not the title that was leaked for the most part, and at least I didn't see it. It was something about stars. So when I saw And the Forgotten Land, I was like, okay, man, I almost even thought maybe we were getting 2 Kirby games.
Not impossible that happened
because
before.
all the artwork was lining up right. I'm like, well, this is not the title they gave leaked, but I'm all for it. Again, we haven't seen too much of this, and usually Nintendo doesn't hit us over the head with Kirby, so I'm okay with seeing a little bit. Maybe later on they do a full-on trailer to show some gameplay, and then that's all I need to see. and I've got no problem playing these Kirby games. I usually, do a one playthrough and that's it. But I'm all for Kirby not doing the same thing we've done for years now.
Yeah, Kirby's an interesting one because I feel like, and I don't mean to speak for everybody, but a lot of people like Kirby and not as many people love Kirby. Like, it's something that I think a lot of people, as a Nintendo first party game, like, you look forward to, you play it, especially at kind of like the end of like a life cycle that used to happen. Star Allies had, you can get a couple hours out of it, but it's not something that I've met a ton of people that are absolutely head over heels passionate about Kirby games. At least not for a long time. Once upon a time, in those Crystal Shards era, the people, you were sworn by it. But
yeah,
these days, things have quieted down quite a bit for Kirby, where it's kind of that IP where it's from the first party, but it comes out, but it doesn't really light that fire under people that like Zelda and Mario obviously do, or even Star Fox really.
Yep.
And so this, I'm excited about this game because I feel like it has an opportunity to kind of reinvigorate things if they stick the landing. Obviously, what this turns out to be and what the scale of this is, only time will tell. But if this really is able to deliver what they're showing off so far, then I think this has a lot of potential, just kind of taking Kirby in kind of a bigger and a bolder direction. So I think that's a good thing. And I hope this game does well, because I would love another Nintendo first party game that really kind of excites me, because Nintendo has a great track record with that. But again, to be reliant on kind of like Mario and Zelda to hold all that, it's going to set you up for disappointment for quite a while. So if Kirby can really kind of pull some of that weight, that'd be awesome.
Yeah, for sure.
Yeah, the next big one, Nintendo Switch Online plus expansion pack. So I'm gonna break this up from what I remember. So basically what this is, and I think this is rolling out, I think they're aiming for late October, they said, where you're going to pay an additional fee, but you'll have access to N64 and Genesis games. Was there anything else that they announced?
No, I think they may have referred to it as the Master System or whatever, but that was pretty much what I saw.
It's Genesis games. So that's two separate things right there. So we'll break that up and we'll discuss them each separately. So let's just get the N64 stuff out of the way. So obviously that's been something super in demand for a while. They showed off a number of games, and it's pretty much the N64 games that you imagine that they'd come out with. Majora's not going to be there at launch, but it will be coming at some point. But this is something that we all hoped for. A lot of leaks confirmed this, but it was still nice to finally see them acknowledge that N64 games are coming to Switch. What are your thoughts on this?
Yeah, I'm half and half, where it's like, well, it's cool that all these games are coming to it, especially N64 games. You have, I think Ocarina is going to be at launch. Mario 64, I think, is at launch. I do think it's kind of a sour taste because we have to, upgrade your membership or whatever. So we have to pay more. I understand we're getting more.
Yeah.
But to be honest, the base membership is nowhere near what even... I don't think the base membership that we pay, and I know it's only like $20 a year, I still think that's kind of off the way they do the game releases and things like that. I do think it's still nowhere near. So if you're going to make me pay more to rent these games, essentially, it just still leaves me in this weird state where it's like, why are we doing the catalogs this way? Why is the catalog so small? It's fun that the games are finally on there, be able to play some of these, on the go, legally through the way Nintendo wants us to. I just think that was a weird place to put it, right in the middle of the director. Like, hey, you have to pay us more, and we're gonna give these games that you obviously have been wanting and asking for.
Yeah, I'm pretty conflicted, just like you. Obviously, I love me a lot of these N64 games, and they chose some pretty fun ones that I'm 100% willing to jump back into. The price proposition of the Nintendo Switch thing, and again, that's a complicated issue because it's almost like a separate issue, but at the same time, I echo a lot of the same sentiments as you, where it's like, I already feel like the service is not particularly robust, and for them to basically offer some more, but basically say that you're going to have to pay more, I guess the biggest question is how much more. Obviously, the service is $20, so it's a lot cheaper than a lot of the other console online things, but keep in mind, like, the offerings, and the offerings are decent. They don't give free games though, like the other ones. And also, Nintendo servers are kind of like notoriously kind of terrible, and so to basically ask me to pay more. Thankfully, I'm not one of the people who even get the service for that. Like, I actually play the Super Nintendo and NES games all the time. So that's what I use the service for. So personally, I don't have a problem paying what I pay for that. But I could imagine the absolute frustration if somebody plays a lot of like Splatoon, for example, and they're like, okay, so you want me to pay more? Because I do want to play N64 games, but is there going to be like a server upgrade to justify the cost? And it doesn't. I doubt it. It's going to be completely content based. So I guess my question is just how much more? If it's another 20 and it's up to 40, which again, this is speculation. I'm not putting this on Nintendo or holding them to this. Then that's absolutely ridiculous, obviously. If it's a small, this is an expansion pack, which again is an insane title for it.
Yeah, smart, but
if it's just like maybe $5 extra, I'll be probably a little bit more forgiving in that regard, I guess. For me, a lot of it comes down to what are they really charging for this amount? Because again, if they're looking at this as like a robust offering on the Nintendo side, because these are major 3D games and we want you to spend another $10, $20 a year on that, then they're pushing it. Because $20 service for what they're giving, it's not great, but I'm not mad at it. $40 service for what they're giving, hell no, because now I'm paying for PS Plus, $50, much better servers, free games, free current gen games, full robust games, and so it's not even comparable. So I'm giving them some leeway because we don't 100% have all the information yet, but I got my eye on them. But again, I am excited to play the N64 games, and it's good to see them go into that direction because that to me also points to the inevitability of eventually GameCube games.
Hopefully, yeah.
Beyond that, I think is super unlikely, with maybe small exception, because technically we have had Wii games on Switch. They're just technically not marketed as Wii games. Like we had World of Goo, and that's essentially a Wii game. Like it still plays the same way. And I know that's like a small exception that people are going to be rolling their eyes at me, but technically it is a Wii game. Yeah, so I feel pretty much the same as you. It's like I want to play the games, but I got my eye on them because it's like I need to know how much this costs. And thankfully, we won't have to wait long, only a couple more weeks to find out fully.
Yeah, absolutely.
And then I guess the second part of the story, or this particular bullet point, is the addition of Master System or Genesis games. And that was very strange for me. And also, before I go any farther, they're also releasing cordless and wireless versions of the N64 and Genesis controller to use for the Switch Online as well, just like the NES and Super Nintendo did for all you guys who like to collect those. That's also worth noting. But yeah, Genesis games, very strange on my end for multiple reasons. So obviously, I'm a massive Genesis fan. I know you are as well. We both love these games. I have a vast majority of those games in one form or another. Obviously, I have the Genesis Mini as well, thanks to you, of course. And pretty much all of those games are on that. So I have the ability to play all these games. But it's still so insane for me to see that Genesis branding with the Nintendo symbol on the side. Like, who would have thought that, like, all those years later, Sega would be in this? Like, it's just so insane to see that a Genesis with a Nintendo. Who would have thought that, like, all these years later that we'd be in that position? But yeah, no, I think that's a pretty cool offering, and that just makes me wonder, like, okay, so if Nintendo Switch Online technically is not just Nintendo Switch Online, and now they're gonna put other consoles on there too, that makes me wonder, like, what else is this possibly open to? Like, you know what I mean? Like, well, are they going to go into more of Sega's history? Because I'd love to see Saturn games on the Switch Online. That'd be awesome. What were your thoughts on this part?
Yeah, I mean, it took me by surprise. I'll be honest. I was like, when they were like, we have, and this as well, you would think GBA would come to this way before, or Game Boy, even OG Game Boy games before he got Genesis games. It is weird that, like, so I'm looking at the 14 titles, but it's like some of these games are already on Switch in that Sega Genesis collection. I'm like, and I think if I'm not even wrong, Sonic the Hedgehog 2, I think is you can buy it separately as just Sonic the Hedgehog 2 on Switch.
Yeah, it's like $5.
Like,
it's like the classics thing.
Yeah, the Sega Classics. So I mean, it's interesting, but it's like, I mean, I guess more content doesn't hurt. Obviously, it's just I just, as much as I love the Sega Genesis, like I have these games in multiple formats, in multiple consoles. There's a lot of GBA and Game Boy games that are kind of lost in time, and I would have preferred that. I will obviously dabble in some of this stuff. Like, Streets of Rage 2 would be great, but I'm not dying to go play Echo the Dolphin again.
It'd be nice to Echo.
Or it's like 4 sequels and time traveling one. But for people who haven't jumped into like Shining Force,
excellent,
Castlevania Bloodlines,
excellent.
So they picked and choose some nice. It's weird they would just jump straight into Shinobi 3. But again, like we're saying,
also good though. That's a good one.
Also great, but it's just so weird to Sonic 2 but not Sonic 1. So it is just like a weird collaboration, and because then we have Golden Axe 1. So it's like weird, but at the same time, I guess as long as it's part of this other bundle that they're giving us, it'll be interesting to see what else rolls out for Sega. Because like you're saying, we start getting into maybe some Dreamcast and Saturn and things later on. Now I see. Now you're starting to plump up the worth of it.
Give me Crazy Taxi on Switch.
Yeah, that price of admission. If you sweeten the deal, then you got me.
Yeah, for sure. That's the most exciting thing for me is not the Genesis games, but the implications of them offering a non-Nintendo property on Switch Online. Now, I'm not going to go as far as to think that they're going to be adding, Intellivision or like Atari games or anything like that, because obviously the connection between Nintendo and Sega, though at one point incredibly adversarial, now obviously is super symbiotic, and so that's a very unique thing to Sega and Nintendo, so it makes me just super excited. And I would imagine that if they want to go in that direction, they're probably going to roll it out chronologically. So they're doing that now. They're doing Genesis now. They're doing N64 on the Nintendo side. Then it's probably expected that they'll probably do a Saturn next, and then maybe a Dreamcast, and then beyond that, we have to wait on Nintendo. There actually is nothing beyond that, so I don't know what I'm talking about. But yeah, because then they all went on to GameCube anyways. But that's the more exciting thing, is less to do with the Genesis games, even though I'm going to play all those because I love Genesis. But it just makes me excited, like, give me some Knights. Now, that's what we're talking about. Like, you give me some Knights on Switch, and now I'm a happy boy. Or some Sonic Adventure, even if it's like the original, and then eventually do DX for the GameCube collection. That would be great. And that also tells me that Sega is super on board with what Nintendo's doing on the online side. So that means that when we get to GameCube eventually, that makes it more likely that Sega will be on board to allow for like a Sonic Adventure DX or a Sonic Adventure 2 battle or something like that.
Yeah, hopefully.
Yeah, and whether that be offered in their original forms through the Dreamcast collection, if that comes, or if that be released on GameCube through that side, whatever way, I think that makes that much more likely to happen, because obviously Sega's on board to some extent here. And then that's really good news for us fans who not only are fans of retro games, not only Nintendo fans, but are Sega fan holdouts, that we're still out there. And this, I just love seeing any kind of breath of life through Sega older material. Next one, Splatoon 3 update. So this is the first time I think they showed off some of the single player material, which is great, because that's personally, I'm one of those weird people who play Splatoon for the single player material. I don't play online because I don't stand a chance. Like I've tried, and I can't even get like one kill. Like I don't even get close. But the single player material is so, like, for 2 is so phenomenally made, because it was the first thing that I felt like evoked the spirit of like a Mario Sunshine in so long. And so I loved the platforming. I loved the way they used the paint splatting mechanic in very unique ways, and they had these unique characters in these unique scenarios, great boss fights. And so that was the one thing I was hoping, was that I hope that Splatoon 3 has a single player offering, and it looks like it does, and it looks really, really dope. And I love some of the street imagery that they're playing with, and this one looks a little grimier than the second one. So what's your thoughts about that?
Yeah, I mean, everything I see looks great, so, I was always wondering, because we only saw the one little teaser for Splatoon 3, which was the bus stop or something like that. I don't really remember
like that, yeah.
From the original one. So
Train,
seeing, the trainer. So seeing the new areas, seeing, there's that really cool scene where they're, I always call it the weird, double city thing where, the city looks inversed or whatever. And
yeah.
It all looks really cool, and I'm glad they're still sticking with the story, because that's one thing, these multiplayer games, once they start hitting that multiplayer stride, they want to, look at Battlefield. There's no single player campaign right now in Battlefield coming out, so, and I know these are obviously way too different games, but to know that we still get that solid single player mode, because that's the first thing I do is usually play a lot of the single player mode, so I'm excited to see what other features. The multiplayer mode looks like Splatoon multiplayer, which, it comes and goes. I was not good at Splatoon 1 at all, but Splatoon 2 on Switch, I don't know if it was just having it portable right there in my hands. I had a lot of fun. Me and my wife actually spent a lot of time passing it back and forth, playing it, because we weren't the best at it, but there was sometimes you'd get into that zone and you were just on top of it. But I'm glad this series is sticking around. I like the whole theme they're going for the story mode, the return of the mammalians, which is the animal creatures, which we've only really seen a bunch of fat cats.
Yeah, it's the two fat cats. Yeah,
the two fat cats. But everything else looks really cool. I remember seeing, and I'm looking at it now, where you get completely inked in a ninja outfit, and they were running up walls and hook shotting. Yeah, it looks really cool. It looks like a natural progression, but it looks like they're not afraid to take their time and try new things, because it is a concept that could get stale very quickly.
Yeah, I saw some really cool abilities that some of the characters were able to do, and so it makes me wonder if over time they're interested in adding mechanics of roles on a team, somebody go for more of a tankier character, somebody go for one with more dynamic movements up walls and stuff like that. So I think they're doing some really cool things to spice up the multiplayer offering as well. So I love what they're doing there. The next one, Monster Hunter Rise Sunbreak expansion pack. Don't got much to say here, but people really do like some Monster Hunter Rise. Looks like a really, really dope game. You have any interest in this?
No. I'm glad they're supporting and people are liking what they're doing with Rise, and that's good.
Super Mario Bros. Movie update and the most insane cast list. But yeah, I had completely forgotten that they were even making this movie, and then it came out of absolutely nowhere, and they're like, oh, here's the date, and I did remember that Illumination was working on it, and Illumination are an incredibly talented team over there who make the Despicable Me movies. So I guess I can read some of the cast. I just pulled it up here. We got Chris Pratt as Mario. Wow. Anya Taylor-Joy as Princess Peach. We got Charlie Day as Luigi, which is one of the greatest things I've ever heard in literally my life. Charlie Day. For you guys that don't know, he's from Always Sunny. You got Jack Black as Bowser, Keegan-Michael Key as Toad, Seth Rogen as Donkey Kong. We got Fred Armisen as Cranky Kong, Kevin Michael Richardson as Kamek, and then Sebastian Maniscalco as Spike, which is also insane too. He's a really funny comedian. And then Charles Martinet is also going to be part of the movie in some capacity. I don't think they gave him a character. I think he's just kind of there. And it's coming out holiday 2022. I have no doubt that this movie is probably going to be pretty incredible, at least from the animation side because of Illumination. The cast sounds wild. The only one that I was kind of perplexed by, funnily enough, was Chris Pratt. Obviously, Keegan-Michael Key as Toad. This seems like this is going to be a way more meta movie than expected. This is not going to be a traditional kind of kids front to back classic Mario telling. If they're going to have Chris Pratt as Mario, this is obviously going to be a way different thing. And again, Keegan-Michael Key as Toad tells me that Toad is probably not going to have the same screaming demeanor that he's had in the game. But yeah, no, this is very strange, but almost kind of exciting for me because I'm like, okay, this movie seems more intriguing than I thought it was going to be traditionally, because I just anticipated a pretty classic kind of just Mario going on adventure to save Peach, and I knew there was going to be maybe some supplementary characters added to the movie to pad it out a little bit, or some scenarios. But I thought this is probably going to be more, just my guess, as kind of like a meta narrative on Mario itself, and there's going to have some kind of like questioning the kind of ridiculousness of the franchise, probably more so than just your classic retelling. And that's just speculation on my part. What were your thoughts?
Yeah, I almost still don't believe it. Like, I don't know what I really expected from this animated Super Mario movie. You know, when I watched like the cutscenes in the Mario Rabbids game, I was almost thinking like that, almost like not a silent movie, but you know, you thinking, I'm not sure. So when I see these big names, I mean Chris Pratt, Seth Rogen, Keegan Key, it's just weird to me because until I see this in action, I don't know how I feel about it. Because I mean, in what world do we live in that Jack Black is playing Bowser? And I pretty much like all these actors. I have no issue with any of that. It's just I don't know, like, we've never heard Mario. I mean, I guess in the old animated shows, they didn't give him like a hard Italian accent. So it's just, I just don't understand, what does that do? Are we just gonna hear Chris Pratt playing, reading Mario lines? And he's a great actor, and I think he's really good at animated movies. Because if I remember, he did that Brother movie for Disney. Can't remember it, but anyway, he did one, and so he can do it. Mario's always had that accent. And then, if I'm not wrong, so Charles Martinet, which is the voice actor for Mario in all the games and most Mario characters, he's going to be in the movie, with cameos. So it's like, once we hear that, I feel like it's going to be jarring, because though, yeah, he's a great voice actor himself, a lot of his stuff ends up sounding similar. So the fact that he'll be in there and whatever, they kept saying surprise cameos, I'm like, what is this movie that we're gonna have the OG Mario voice mixing with what a new Mario voice will sound like? And I think it will be blowing my mind when I see these characters speaking full sentences, because for the most part of our lives they don't. It's a couple yahoos here, some let's a goes, and all these like stuttering thing. Like, when I see Toad speak a sentence and it's not screaming, I think it will be the most bizarre thing.
Like when Pikachu
ever.
Finally spoke.
Yeah, we all remember that Pokemon movie where Pikachu. Lord, I don't know what they were thinking about that.
That was nuts.
Yeah, that was a nut thing. So I don't know. Fred Armisen as Cranky Kong. Kevin Michael Richardson as Kamek. Why? What is this? But until we see it in action, I guess we can't be. I mean, it can't be worse than, Bob Hopkins, Mario.
Oh,
so yeah. we will have to. I mean, until I'm proven wrong, I mean, I can be skeptical, but I can't help but be sort of excited at the same time, because it's just such a weird thing that I need to see that first trailer. Yeah,
the only thing I could possibly think of, because when I was thinking the same thing, I was like, how is this going to even work and sound? And I was like, what if like the movie begins and they all have their like Charles Martinet, his voice is Mario, like their classic voices, and then you just hear like a cut and like they're filming on set, and that's when like the normal voices start. And so it's kind of like it's like a look at the characters behind whatever they do on their day-to-day or something like that. Or maybe it's not even like a set piece, but like they go home and they just talk normal, and it's like like they don't play the role anymore. And it's so gonna be weird. I just feel like it's gonna be so off-putting. And the problem is, I don't know how far they can go, because how protective they are Nintendo, with their IP. Yeah. So there's no way that they're gonna have like a full kind of parody of Mario. There's just no way. But or at least anything semi-explicit or anything like that. So it just makes me wonder, like, how far are they going to take it or try to take it, and how far will they even be allowed to take it? But this is a very interesting thing. I'm super intrigued by this. Mm-hmm. The next one we already kind of spoke about, the Castlevania Advance Collection. But yeah, I was super excited about this. Any additional thoughts about this?
No, everyone go buy it. So maybe we get more of these collections, and hopefully soon a legit new Castlevania.
Yeah, I was a little confused as to... I expected the Symphony of the Night collection that we got on PlayStation to come as well. But then I thought, I'm like, maybe PlayStation just has like some kind of IP lock on that one, on Symphony of the Night, because it was exclusive to there. Because I was just confused as to like why we got the advanced ones but not Symphony of the Night in some capacity on Switch. Yep. But yeah, that's just probably my guess. The next one I'm super excited about, and I'm excited to talk about, which is ActRaiser Renaissance. It's basically like a remake of the original ActRaiser. Looks phenomenal. Yeah, and the only reason I don't have this is because I'm playing Castlevania in Kano right now. It's absolutely on my list to get to, because I absolutely adore the original ActRaiser. I have it on cart, and I play it on there sometimes as well. Do you have any fondness for this game?
Yeah, it's one of those games where it's so weird because it's like one of those things that I knew people like this game. I know you and I have had discussions, but it's like one of those games people are like, oh, what is it? I'm like, it's hard to sell because you start as a platformer, then you go into
it's like a god
simulator almost, and then you doing city building and stuff. But I mean, I don't even remember hearing rumors about this, and not only did we finally get because since its release, and I think for us was in the 90s, I don't think it's ever really been re-released.
No, I don't think so.
I think maybe on Wii's Virtual Console actually came out. I kind of remember having it on my Wii.
That had everything.
But even then, yeah, that we'll give it to them. That had everything. But not only to get like a nice little HD of it, no, they gave us a high definition remake.
Looks good too.
It looks really good. It doesn't look very... it looks like what in my brain it should. So I'm in the same boat where it's like, I cannot wait to... I've not replayed ActRaiser in forever. Just because it's so hard. So to be able to have it, new, and I believe on all the consoles, I don't think it was... PS4, Switch.
Yeah, it's not Switch
Microsoft
exclusive.
Windows. So it's on... And also says it's on Apple Arcade and Android. But
oh, cool.
So it's available. It's available everywhere, which is super cool. So I'm wondering how it translates nowadays, especially when people are way more... I mean, we played Death Stranding, which is a game about carrying stuff around, so people are open to these super weird, look at that gas station simulator and all these simulator games. So
Steam,
it's so when you have that, ActRaiser is really good. Anyone who hears this, ActRaiser is really, really interesting. So I'm more than happy to have this back out of nowhere. And the fact that they were just like, yeah, available today, right now, they're like, go get it. And I was like, it was just so bombarded with information. But I'm super happy to see it. I can't wait to really get hands-on with it and just like give it the time it needs, because that's what I know. Once you get to that simulation part, you need time.
For sure. Next one, Triangle Strategy Update. Obviously, this is the game in the same engine, same spirit as Octopath Traveler. Just like Octopath Traveler, they dropped the project name. And so it's just Triangle Strategy. I don't have any additional thoughts to what I had the original time, other than the fact that it looks beautiful. Can't wait to play it. I like what they're doing here. But other than that, and from what I remember, this is also the game that is probably more in line with like tactics than a traditional RPG. So yeah, I like what I'm seeing. Any additional thoughts for you?
No, just I like I told everyone when it announced. I told you, I mean, it wasn't really a guess. We knew they were virtually just going to drop the project, and it was just going to be called Triangle Strategy. But yeah, I'm a big sucker for the artwork and the tactics feel. Once you see that grid base, it's random. I will randomly get into those super grid based games, and so hopefully when this drops, I'm in one of those moods.
Yeah.
Because I just everything else about it is just super solid.
We got Deltarune Chapter 2. For you guys that don't know, this is from the creator of Undertale, from what I understand. And sometime back, he dropped another. From what I understand, I think it's in the same universe, but it's like a different game. It's like a different thing. But I played Chapter 1. I think it was like free on Switch, and it was actually really, really fun. And I liked it. It's pretty much the same gameplay style from what I remember to Undertale. It's kind of like a music dodging bullet hell thingy. And so finally the rest of the game is coming out. So for you fans of the series, you got that. Any thoughts there?
No, I mean, I'm surprised it took so long. I think Toby Fox.
Right?
Fox. It does take a long time to do this. So again, I remember playing Chapter 1 when it came out, and I liked that gameplay a little bit more than I did Undertale.
Yeah.
And I know, there's like a lot of parallels. Like some of the characters from Undertale are in here, but they're not the same ones. So I don't know if we're doing Earth 1, Earth 2 type deal. It's Deltarune is Undertale just scrambled.
Yeah.
So it's interesting to see that. I was surprised it was for free. He did confirm that chapters 3, 4, 5 are going to be paid.
Okay.
So for people who, I know it's also weird, like if you're looking for Chapter 2, it's an update to Chapter 1. So if you already have Deltarune Chapter 1 there, if you update it, it should say Chapter 1 and 2. But it's cool. Maybe we'll jump into it again. That spoke to me a little bit more than Undertale did. The obscurity of Undertale was always kind of like keeping me lost. So maybe Deltarune will kind of grab me back into it. But it's exciting to see. I know people lose their mind over Deltarune and Undertale and finding all the connections.
Yeah, I'll have to replay episode 1 because I can't remember crap from that. I remember like walking in a school hallway and something like that, but other than that, yeah, I would have to replay it. Next one is an interesting one. We got Chocobo GB or GP, and it's a kart racer game with like Chocobo type characters and. Not for me personally. I'm kind of. I mean, I love kart racers, but I'm not just down with any kart racer. I mean, who knows? This could be a sleeper hit. But what was your thoughts about this? I thought this was a weird one.
Yeah, it was super weird. But you know me, kart racing is my kind of my thing. So when I saw this, obviously, I thought it was super exciting, especially in a world where they are refusing to give us Mario Kart 9 and Crash Team Racing. I actually haven't touched really when they just slammed it with all the microtransactions and all the weird stuff. I've to get like characters and stuff. Or they were basically like super battle passing it, and I just didn't have the time. I just wanted to play it very casually. So it is interesting. I'm curious to see what character I gotta see, because my thing is I don't like playing any kart racer, so it takes a lot. So it takes a lot for me to get just slapping an IP on it. Like the Sonic Team Racing that just came out. That was the last Sonic kart racing game. I really don't like. I really, really, really don't like that game. So I don't play any kart racer just because you put the characters I love on it. But this looks pretty solid. This is one of the things I just hope they give us a demo, so I can try it out. Because we've only seen like 3 characters. I think obviously they showed Chocobo. I think they showed like Vivi, or as a mage, or it might have just been a mage. I don't know if it was him exactly. But I'll keep an eye on it. They just gave us 2022 as a release date, but I'm hoping this is not just a quick cash grab.
Yeah, I hope it's really good. The thing is, I have such high standards when it comes to kart racer, because I feel like CTR and Mario Kart have just mastered it. And there are two sides of this kind of the same coin. People go back and forth about which one they like more, but I think they've both just mastered it so well. So for like a third entry to kind of break in, you got to come with the heat. And so like I'm skeptical of it, but I'm not writing it off so far, because again, sometimes you hear about these things that come out and it's like, hey, this is actually pretty good. But yeah, they always have Sonic or Nickelodeon kart racer. There's always one of these in like the incubation somewhere. Garfield kart racing.
Got a sequel if I'm not wrong.
That's absolutely. I almost want to get the game just because. But yeah, so we'll see how this one plays out. But from what they showed in the trailer, it looks like this is getting a bit more love than your kind of just cash grab kind of thing. So, and then lastly, we can kind of end off with the Bayonetta 3 trailer. So finally, this game reemerges. This game, for you guys that don't remember, was announced back in I think like 2017. So because the Switch was like brand new when they announced this game, and they just gave us a 3 there. And pretty much since that time, it's been completely silent. And so everybody's been asking like what's going on and how's it progressing. And so finally they're back. We got a brand new trailer. Looks good. We got a new design for her. So yeah, things are looking really, really good. I can't wait for this game. I feel like I kind of have to replay 2 now, because I won't be able to remember a lot of what was going on, because it's been years by this point. How excited are you for this game?
Yeah, this is one of the things I like in every direct. I would look in the comments and people were asking for a Smash character and Bayonetta 3.
Yeah.
Because, like you're saying, they announced this a long time. Well, they announced like the collection that came to Switch was with Bayonetta 1 and 2.
Yep.
With all the Nintendo content. And then there was like, and we're doing Bayonetta 3. And then it was like complete radio silence. And then not too long ago, we had some people coming out. They're like, hey, yeah, we're ready to talk about the game. It's all on Nintendo. They're obviously the big back publisher. That's why it's exclusive. So they're like, yeah, Nintendo's gonna show it when they want to show it. It's not up to us. And then weeks later, obviously, we got the trailer finally. I think the game looks great. You know, there's like that weird tease at the end where I guess a new character. People were speculating because it almost almost had like a Devil May Cry reveal at the end. But we'll see what plays. Again, I can't remember the story of these Bayonetta games for anything. Yeah. Because especially Bayonetta 1, which was so I don't know, campy in a sense, and was so just like weird. Bayonetta 2, I don't remember any. I at one point I believe I just started skipping the stories because it was weird. So I may have to replay it or maybe watch a recap. But it's finally, I'm glad it's finally out there because I know I know some deep Bayonetta fans that are just dying for this game and they don't know where it is. I think her character design looks good. They really went with like, especially the hairstyle, super different in each, you know, entry so far, so it makes sense and is in line with everything.
Definitely.
Yeah. So that was it for the Nintendo Direct. So we can jump right into the next story. A lot of good stuff. You know, these you know, Sony hit us with a good state of play not too long ago. Then Direct, Xbox always gets a little willy washy with theirs, but we'll see. So next story, we have a continuation of this whole Epic Games versus Apple. We actually, I want to say, discussed this last week or the last episode or the episode before, where I kept as a joke in words saying that both teams lost, because I know that article seemed almost like Epic won, and now we're seeing it really isn't. So from Matt Kim, Epic Games CEO Tim Sweeney revealed that Apple has rejected the company's request to reinstate Epic's developer account, effectively banning Fortnite from returning to the App Store following the legal battle between Epic and Apple. Sweeney revealed on social media this morning. Later, a letter sent to him by Apple rejecting Epic's request to have its developer program reinstated. An Apple developer account is required to develop and deliver apps on iOS. Furthermore, Apple says it will not consider requests to reinstate Epic's account until the district court's judgment becomes final and non-appealable, which Sweeney says could take up as long as 5 years, which means in the quick sense, Fortnite could be banned for almost about minimum for 5 years on iOS devices, which is a little nuts. I thought this was something, we talk about it every time. We thought things would have settled down by now. Someone would have paid someone out, or the courts would have pushed it in one way or the other. It's nuts to think that Apple's sticking by their gun. They don't care. It's just so wild that they're still doing this, and being almost very petty. Like I always said, both sides lost, and this shows even more of that, to the point where even Apple says even once the decision is final, they're going to try to appeal it as soon as they can. So once it's all over is then when they can start even thinking about letting Epic back on the App Store, which is it's a nuts case. This is interesting. I can't wait till someone have the story or the documentary on this, because this is something I gotta see. Yeah. Whatever footage that they have, because I understand where this all came from, but it almost became to like this pettiness now, and now it's just like in this limbo. I actually don't think you will ever see Fortnite back on the iOS or the App Store or the Epic Games in general, because they will obviously keep going on this. But what do you think of this turnout? This is one I didn't really see coming. Yeah,
funnily enough, it doesn't surprise me at all, because Apple is just leveraging what abilities they have, and so if they can't necessarily control the amount of money or the ability for them to link and make money on their account, because of monopolistic concerns or competitive charging concerns, then obviously they're probably going to do the one thing they probably can control, which is to allow you to have a presence on their eStore, period. So it didn't surprise me. I thought it was a bold move, because basically they're really cutting off their foot there, where they're just like, Apple, whether they make the margins that they want or not, they do make money off of Fortnite. It's one of the massive games. So even with that 30%, and if it's lowered to like 15 or 10%, or because they're allowed to link to their own store or whatever that does, they do make some money on Fortnite, and I would imagine they make a lot more money with Fortnite than they make with a lot of the vaporware nonsense ads that they have, or apps that they have on their store. So for them to basically be like, we're willing to sacrifice all that money, it shows that they're just not really playing with Epic. So yeah, the corporation wars continue. This is just another battle, and Epic seemed to have won a small battle last week or last episode, and it seems like maybe they're winning a small battle here, Apple, and they're just gonna go back and forth, leveraging what they can, pretty much. And so, Epic leveraged the courts and were able to get a victory there. But at no point did the courts rule that Apple absolutely has to allow Epic to have a presence on their store. They can feel free to reject that as they want. So,
exactly.
In a legal sense.
Yep.
So yeah, no, and I doubt this will be the end of that. I wouldn't be surprised if Epic finds a way to possibly sue Apple for that process too, as well, for unfairly terminating their thing. And I don't know what the legal precedence for that is. Again, I'm not a legal scholar, but I'm very interested to see how this plays out. I personally don't have an iOS device, and I don't really play Fortnite, so it's super outside observer for me. I kind of just watch this from an outside perspective, and I think it's really interesting. But so for me, it was a surprising move in the way that I didn't expect Apple to be willing to completely negate any profits they can get off of Fortnite for the sole purpose of kind of getting back at Epic. That kind of surprised me, that level of pettiness. But at the same time, it doesn't surprise me because I know companies will absolutely leverage any bit of control that they can over another corporation if they can. So yeah, that was kind of my feelings on it.
Yeah, so, I completely agree. It's just of all companies, I wasn't surprised that Apple would do this.
No, they're a very petty company. So
yeah.
Next big story, and this has kind of been stewing around the rumor mill the entire past 2 weeks. So Quantic Dream, the developer behind Heavy Rain and Detroit Become Human, is rumored to be making a Star Wars game, and this story is by Jared Moore. The rumor has surfaced courtesy of French YouTuber Gotoz, sorry if I'm mispronouncing that, who reports that the studio has signed on with Disney. This follows the company's shift to multi-platform after a long history of working exclusively with Sony. So DualShockers reports that from its own sources that confirm that Quantic Dream is working on a Star Wars game. The site reports that its source provided overwhelming evidence of having connections with Quantic Dream, and that the Star Wars game has been the studio's project for around 18 months. The report notes that it's unclear what exactly that 18-month time frame entails, but rumors within the French developer community suggest that the game may have just began full development in the past few months. So there's a very interesting story, and we got a couple things here. So first off, the Star Wars exclusivity deal with EA is up now, so other companies are free to make game. Was that incorrect?
No, good. I'm saying good.
Oh, yeah. Yeah. So that exclusive deal is up. Obviously, that means that that doesn't mean that they're not going to work with EA going forward. That just gives other people, like theoretically Ubisoft or like Quantic Dream, the ability to make a Star Wars game as well. So that's very interesting in that regard. Quantic Dream is a very controversial team as of recently, and not because of the studio themselves, but rather the studio CEO, David Cage, who has had his own bout of legal problems and toxic workplace allegations and all types of stuff related to him. So he's a bit of a nutty character. And so that is my first reaction when I heard this story. Was I was surprised that Disney might link themselves with a company headed by a guy as controversial as David Cage. You know what I mean? Yeah. And that's what made me skeptical, because when it comes to specific controversy, when things, at least we could limit it to just Star Wars if you want, not even Disney as a whole. I think of that one person, I can't remember her name's the actress from like The Mandalorian, or even when it came to in the MCU, what's his name that makes the Guardians film? I forget his name.
Oh, James Gunn.
Yeah, or the James Gunn controversy. Disney seems to be a little bit on edge when it comes to working with creators with a certain level of scrutiny on them. Whether legitimate, illegitimate, I'm not really here to render judgment on that. But and so it seems, and that was a situation where there were pre-existing contracts that existed with these these creators that they wanted to terminate after things got a little bit dicey, let alone walking into a situation with that already established. And that's well known obviously in the French developer community, and now at this point it's well known kind of worldwide that this guy, he's a little bit of an off character. So it would surprise me to see Disney willingly go into bed with a company led by him. But at the same time, Quantic Dream is not necessarily synonymous with David Cage. He may or may not be associated with this game in general. I don't know exactly how their structure of that company works. But yeah, and then also there's questions and implications about what this game even looks like, because the nature of the way Quantic Dream makes games, whether you look at Detroit, whether you look at Beyond Two Souls, whether you look at Heavy Rain, how would that translate into a Star Wars game is also an interesting question as well. So what's your thoughts on this?
Yeah, so I knew for sure we were going to discuss this, so I've been digging deep into this because obviously you and I are both huge Star Wars fans. I actually really like Quantic Dream, again, besides all the controversy. The products that they've put out have always been really well in my aspect. So when I saw this initially, without thinking just a Star Wars Quantic Dream game, it almost makes perfect sense, especially now that Disney is starting to loosen the grip a little bit. Everything was struggled to be this Skywalker saga, but things like Star Wars Visions that we just got and The Mandalorian that is able to expand and open the world seems perfect. So many ideas went through my head. When you see Detroit become human, when it's 3 different protagonists or antagonists, depending what you just decide to do. Thinking of something, even if you go further time, playing as 3 different Jedis, or playing as a someone playing on the Sith side, someone playing for the Republic, someone playing for the Rebels. Having a multi-integrated story with choice makes sense. But it starts to reveal itself a little bit more, because that's almost what I would want, is a Quantic Dream Star Wars game. But now when you look into it and where a lot of this company's multi-platform shift ever since they're split with Sony, they opened a second team in Montreal or Quebec, and they're saying that this Star Wars game may be more in line with the games you get from up there, which obviously you got to think open world Ubisoft games and situations like that. So which makes sense, because they've been almost wanting to talk. Quantic Dream has almost been wanting to kind of break away from being known as just these games, because Heavy Rain, Detroit, Beyond Two Souls were very expensive. Those games graphically, especially Detroit, is insane. Some of the top notch, the facial animations and stuff like that. Exactly. So it all really depends what we get from them. That's the thing where it's these are one of those rumors that I hate to hear, because we don't know what is true. In a sense, which Quantic Dream is making this Star Wars game. And there's a lot has surfaced up, especially last night, about more connections with people, and it's pretty significant that it's Quantic Dream is making one. Just which side of the studio is making it? Is it going to be this new open world thing, which may not be what people want? Some people will, maybe, but I would prefer the other one. So it's just one of those things where it's now I have to keep a note on this and either keep my expectations low or keep my expectations middled through, because not that an open world Star Wars game is bad, but now you're going to be realizing we're getting a somewhat sequel to
Fallen Order,
Fallen Order, which was semi-open world, as open as I think a Star Wars game can really be. We have Big Bad KOTOR coming back, so it's I want different Star Wars experience. Again, I'm gonna keep using Vision as an example, because each episode is its own experience and tale. As much as I want some of those episodes to be a full-fledged show, I just hope that we're not going to get the same thing over and over and over again. So it's concerning and at the same time exciting, because I just don't know exactly where it's going to go.
Yeah, and I share a lot of the same sentiment as you do. Obviously, it seems like you're a bit of a bigger fan of Quantic Dream than I am, though I do enjoy some of the things that they put out. I actually really do hope that in the event that they are making a Star Wars game, that they do make it in line with the games they made previously, even if that's not particularly the vision that they have set for themselves going forward. I'd actually really like that, just because, again, as you said, that open world action thing we already have being done at a pretty high level. Respawn absolutely killed it on their last one, or not Respawn. Who did Fallen Order? I can't remember.
Yeah, Respawn.
Yeah, it was Respawn, right? Okay, I'm not tripping.
Yeah.
But yeah, no, Respawn absolutely just killed it and knocked it out of the park with Fallen Order. So for as far as kind of like a third-person action game, they got to unlock. We could leave them alone. Obviously, something a little bit more on the tactical side. That's what KOTOR can fulfill. We got the first-person shooters, coming over from DICE and stuff like that. So, I feel like they can actually do something special, which is their storytelling ability. Now, obviously, some people like the story, some people don't. But what you can't say is that Quantic Dream doesn't go for it sometimes. You know what I mean? And that they don't put care into the stories that they try to tell, and the way they interweave things, and they have a very creative way of telling stories over there that I really, really do appreciate. And so that's kind of what I hope for them, is actually to bring that to Star Wars and just do something completely different. And so kind of like an interactive movie version of Star Wars, I think would be excellent, personally. But again, if that's not what they're interested in doing anymore, so be it. But yeah, when people are actually talking about like, oh, we don't want a Quantic Dream Star Wars game because what are they gonna do? Make it interactive. I'm like, that actually sounds awesome to me. Because every other form of Star Wars game we have already. We have the fighter pilots, squadrons types games. We have the first-person shooters. We have the third-person action. We have something more tactical. This is the one lane that I feel like is probably less tapped, if anything, where it's like, imagine if you could watch a Star Wars movies and actually interact with it. Not just in a way where it's like, oh, this cutscene makes me feel like I'm watching a Star Wars. No, but the Quantic Dream actually doing a Star Wars game where like you're actually like, imagine if you could actually interact with Rogue One. That would be amazing for me. So yeah, no, I'm actually pretty optimistic about this if done right. But again, we are missing so much information, and yeah, you bring up great points with kind of Quantic Dream expanding a little bit, that this can mean a lot of different things, because and the immediate analog I went to was like BioWare, for example, where it's like depending on what team is doing what can vastly change the experience. It's a difference between Dragon Age and Mass Effect 3 and Andromeda and Anthem. You know what I mean? Like, these are massive differences depending on who's working on what and when they're working on it, and so that can also be a great thing, because you got to think like with Ubisoft and like Eidos Montreal and stuff like that, the heritage of developer that they'd be extracting from that area, if they're working over there as Quantic Dream, that team would best be suited probably for the more action open world, third person kind of type of game anyways. So yeah, you raised some great points, and overall I'm pretty optimistic about it.
Yeah, same. I think even in a world where they go a little bit more action and go more, I guess, video game than I hate the term, but walking simulator in a sense, I just think there would still be that Quantic Dream hopefully twist to it where it is very story based. I mean, especially if you look at the first two trilogies of Star Wars, so less the sequels, that political aspect is pretty big. Definitely. To have those giant conversations, whether it be with the council or whether it be in that giant dome thing where they're all floating, I think back and forth controlling and putting your case up would be really well, again, in that Quantic Dream style. I think even if it is more action-based, where it's more game-based, I just hope there's still that Quantic Dream DNA in the game. So that's at least my hope for it. But I mean, we can only, unfortunately, wait and see.
Yeah. Let me be Jar Jar and hand over power to Chancellor Palpatine.
Yeah, give him make Palpatine actually make decisions. So for the final story, so it's like a good and bad news, because last time we were talking a little bit negatively about this. So Yuji Naka Goes Indie article comes from Jared Moore over at IGN. So the Sonic the Hedgehog co-creator Yuji Naka has taken a move towards the realm of indie games following this year's disappointing release of Balan Wonderworld. As translated by VGC, Naka, who turned 56 on September 17th, happy birthday, tweeted thanking fans for their birthday wishes before going on to announce that he's working on a small indie mobile game developed using Unity. His quote, "I've recently started learning how to program again, and I'm working on a simple game for smartphones with Unity," said Naka. Quote, "I'm making it by myself, so it's not much, but I'm enjoying programming it. I hope you'll be able to play with the app when it's available." So, there was a lot of mystery and discussions and I guess rumors that Mr. Naka was going to be just kind of done, put away from everything after the, I don't know if disappointing is the word, Balan Wonderworld. which you and I had very strong negative feelings from just the demo. You and I have not purchased and beaten the game.
No.
I'm glad to see that at least the passion is still there. Him going way smaller hands-on. Again, that first step may be something very small, puzzle, drag and drop type game. But sometimes just knowing he's still in the industry, maybe be able to oversee and help work on other things, because he has a lot of good ideas. I remember when we first saw Balan Wonderworld, we were actually kind of excited for the game. We thought the art style looked really cool.
Yeah.
It looked very Knights, is what we kept bringing up. So it wasn't until we got our hands on the game that we were
stinker
really down. Yeah, immediately gave it off based off the demo. We gave it a stinker award on it,
preemptive,
just because just in a world we create a game where all the buttons do one thing. So it's and again, I know there's a lot of other stuff in play. This wasn't just all his decision, so it is sad to see it all work out that way. But at least he isn't. It didn't all right, I'm just disappearing from the game world. And, he's, 56, and you have people even older still creating some of the best work. So I'm glad that passion's still there for him.
Yeah, I actually read that. Part of me, because I like this story, because I felt like with the last story, I actually did kind of feel sad about it, because it gave me very much kind of like... when like Mighty Number 9 came out, and just seeing these like legendary creators late in their career kind of go out on a flop is like the most, like, how much I wish they could have their blood stained, you know what I mean, to kind of, and it's not even a redemption, because Iga never went on a low note, but just the opportunity to go out on a high note. Not that Iga's done, of course, but just seeing him kind of go out like that, I was like, man, because he's such a legend, and I have so much love for so many of his games. To see him kind of go out like that, it's just like, man, it's sad. Like, that's like a huge reason why I didn't play Ball in Wonderworld. It's just because I'm like, I can't see him like this. It's kind of like when your favorite band finally comes back and drops an album and it's terrible, and it's like, I'm gonna act like this never happened, because I can't think of you like this. Yep. and it was like the same thing for me, where it's like, I love his game so much, so to see him kind of come back on this, it's like, oh no. So reading this story, I was actually kind of like relieved by it, because I was like, you know what, he's still working, but he's working on something like smaller in scale that I feel like he can kind of just take his time with and enjoy, and I feel like would be much better for him. Not this massive kind of AAA scrutiny. Everybody's like, no, what are you coming with? Come with something bigger and better, and he doesn't have to worry about that. It's like he's just working on something by himself. It's smaller in scale, and I feel like sometimes there's something to be said that is just something that's better for your own mental health, if that makes sense. Like, just something that's not going to break your back, and it's going to take years to develop, and then it comes out and it's a flop. Like, that's probably one of the worst feelings ever as a developer, especially later into your career, where you have like a legacy to maintain, whether that's important to you or not. And so kind of giving himself the opportunity to just work on something simple, small app that is just, it's almost like a passion project, you know what I mean? Like, he can kind of just go back to the core of what it means to be a developer. He's just learning programming again. I think that's an awesome thing for him, and I think that's a much better decision for him to go than try to do, Ball in Wonderworld 2 or something like that. Just something big on that, where it's just, if something ain't it, it just ain't it. And so sometimes I could appreciate him just kind of taking a step back and returning back to form. So it reminds me kind of like, and I know this is a weird analogy for people, but like when I hear about the stories of like Andre 3000 in the park somewhere just playing flute, it's like, it's just getting back to the core of what it means to be a musician, or it's getting back to the core of what it means to be a video game developer. Not everything needs to be this, $millions projects. That it could be just something smaller that he can just do for his own enjoyment. So I liked this story personally, even though I saw some people disappointed by it. I felt like sometimes the framing was a little bit off by the way some people were interpreting this. I actually thought this was actually a pretty good thing.
Yeah, so did I. That's what I looked at it as a super positive thing. Like, he wasn't down and out. He wasn't blacklisted or whatever. It wasn't like he's like, I'm done. You guys didn't see my vision. He's like, listen, I'm learning to program again. I'm doing what I like to do. This is something he enjoys doing, and he's doing it again. And he's doing it obviously he's creating content for other people, but he's like, I'm doing it because I also enjoy doing this, which is one of the biggest compliments someone can say about their own work is like, despite how it's received, or despite your previous stuff, he's like, I'm continuing this because I enjoy doing this. So that's how I looked at it. And yeah, I did see some of the skeptical people out there coming at him, not coming at him, but being a little negative. But I was like, if he's happy doing what he's gonna do, and when this app is created, if it's available on our markets, I'll check it out. Why not? Even if it's a simple puzzle game or whatever it is, it's something simple. It's all about that passion for me. So that's why I like to see.
Yeah, for sure. And you would understand this, I'm sure, perfectly, as the kind of like retro game fans that really have a lot of love for that art form, especially back then. Nothing's like, the few things are as heartbreaking as seeing things go out the way like Keiji Inafune had to go out, unfortunately.
Yeah.
And it's like, I hate to see stuff like that. So the fact that he is just kind of openly saying like things are not bad, like he's not beefing crazy with Square or like Sega or anything like that, where it's just like, I'm just doing something for me, something small, and I hope you guys enjoy it when it comes out. Like, I think that is what I like to hear, and not to say that about like Keiji, like it's all done, like he's done forever. No, of course not. Yeah. But for right now, like it is just, seeing that kind of stuff is just heartbreaking. So like being able to see him kind of just do something for himself and not going out on a low note, I think is a great thing, because these are like people that we love, and I want to see succeed and go down as the legends they deserve to. And unfortunately, not everybody does their homework, and so sometimes the latest thing you put out is the last taste people have in your mouth, whether justified or not, unfortunately. So for some people, Inafune is associated with Mighty Number 9, or I forget that other red one that didn't come out, much more than he is obviously for Mega Man, which is like terrible. And so I don't want Yuji Naka to go out as like the Balan Wonderworld guy, you know what I mean? So
yeah, and I don't think he will.
I doubt so. I doubt it. I think there's so much, first off, life in not only his interest in gaming, like he can do whatever, if he's interested in, I think he's fully capable of it, and I think there's a great timing for it too, because with Sonic in the place that it's in right now, and the kind of just resurgence in that kind of platformer and that style, like this is the time for him, that if he's really dedicated to it, like I feel like he can really pull off something great still to this day.
Absolutely.
And that was all the stories that we had for you guys. Cool thing is, I'm looking at the calendar, and so the next episode that will have for you guys will go up live on the 11th. We'll record it on October 10th. And the cool thing about it is that by that point, the Switch OLED will be out. And so we'll have thoughts about that, hopefully. Or at least I will. Will you be getting your Switch OLED by that point, you think?
I am planning on it.
All things going to plan, yeah.
That's all we can really say. I'm planning on it, and if not, one of us will. Yeah,
I'm set to pick mine up on that Friday at Best Buy, so I'm hoping things go well. I maybe it's because I've just gotten so used to it. It's like shipping to my house is what I'm used to at this point. So now going and picking something up in person almost makes me feel like it's not going to work. It's how weird how things have changed. But yeah, no, I'm excited to jump into that. I had thought it's so weird that there's so little hands-on anything about it. So that's like one thing that I just wanted to bring up that's really weird. That the only thing I found was there's one Japanese YouTuber. I forget his name. It's like Hikakin or something like that. Yeah, Hikakin, who is like a huge Japanese YouTuber, and he has like an unboxing of the Switch OLED, and then there's like some like UK articles about it and stuff like that, but so few people have gotten hands-on with the OLED, which is so weird for something about to launch in 2 weeks. Have you noticed that?
Yeah, so I did notice that. The other day I went to go look at IGN because I assumed in my brain
they'd have something.
IGN, I mean, they have to. I'm like, oh, they gotta have like a hands-on unboxing, something, and nothing came up besides like a few discussions and some of their Nintendo Voice podcast, I think. And I'm like, unless it's, I don't know, unless they're playing it close to the chest for some reason, I'm like, or whatever their quote unquote embargo's not up, and I was super surprised because you have to assume they're gonna get one, if not already have it in hand somewhere.
Yeah, and I don't mean to like make the implication that something's wrong. I'm just surprised from like a marketing perspective that like they haven't given this to anyone, and 2 weeks away. So you have to assume that at least a week from now, at the very latest, maybe these early roundup IGN, GameSpot stuff will start popping up the unboxings and stuff like that. But it's just so weird because I love watching those videos before it comes out, before a new piece of hardware. When like the PS5 was coming out, all the like unboxing stuff, I loved watching that kind of stuff. And so I'm like, I want to see people get more people get on hand with it. And again, no offense to Hikakin because his video was great on it, but like I would like to see some of my favorite YouTubers get their hand, like, give it to Marquise Brownlee or like Austin Evans or something like that. So yeah, I just wanted to mention that like the Swoled will be out by the next time. So I'm excited to report what my thoughts on like Metroid Dread is on it because oh god, I can't wait to play that game.
Yeah, absolutely.
All right, so this was the NeoVintage podcast. We talk over the biggest stories in gaming. This is Jabril and I am with
Steve. Hope you guys enjoyed.
And we'll see you guys in 2 weeks. Bye.